This week on LTC News, Welcoming Week in Lowell.
And so we care a lot about immigrants and that Lowell is a safe and welcoming community for immigrants.
A new center for the performing arts.
Welcome to our brand new theater inside of the new Academic Arts Center for Middlesex Community College.
A final tally.
It was a long primary campaign. It was competitive.
Stay with us. Welcome to LTC News. I'm your news anchor, Alanna Flood. Lori Trahan won the Democratic nomination for the 3rd Congressional District after a recount that saw final vote totals change in 29 out of the 37 towns in the district. Unofficial results from the September 4th primary had Trahan leading Coe by 52 votes, while certified results later in the week brought Trahan's lead up to 122 votes. The biggest concern for the recount was right here in Lowell, where there were 1,256 blank ballots for that particular race. Ballots were counted as blanks when the voters didn't make a selection, when they selected more than one candidate, or did not fill out the vote circle completely. 73 of those blank ballots were changed to votes for candidates during the recount when inspectors could determine the voters' intent. In Lowell, Trahan picked up 75 votes and Coe added 27. In Dracut, Trahan lost 20 votes while Coe lost 4. The final tally was 18,580 for Lori Trahan and 18,435 for Dan Coe, net gains of 53 and 30 respectively. Trahan now faces off against Republican Rick Green of Pepperell and Independent Mike Mullen of Maynard. Lori Trahan joins us in today's Sunspot later in the program. September 14th was the start of Welcoming Week in Lowell. Organizations in the city that work with immigrants coordinated 11 events throughout the week that aimed to bring immigrants and longtime residents together to explore what it means to be a welcoming community. The Cultural Exchange Potluck Picnic took place on South Common on September 15th.
Well, I flew in from Melrose, I flew in from Ohio, we all flew in from somewhere.
Because I'm an immigrant myself, that's the first thing. So I'm a stranger in this country, so I came here, yes, a long time ago. But still, there are still things that puzzle me. Always been interested in other cultures, how other people think, what other people eat, how other people do things, their life. And since we all live together in the same city, I find it's really important that we try to understand each other a little better.
I'm the pastor of the Elliott Presbyterian Church, which is a multicultural congregation. We're about 1/3 Cambodian immigrants, 1/3 immigrants from West Africa, and 1/3 European Americans. And so we care a lot about immigrants and that Lowell is a safe and welcoming community for immigrants. So we have been involved with the Welcoming Week events, particularly this picnic, since it's right here at the bottom of the hill from our church.
I am an immigrant myself. I migrated to Lowell in 2009. And at the time I came to this country, I felt the need of feeling welcome. And in part it's because the culture is different. But when we have events like these, it's a way that people can get to understand the cultures. We are having people from different backgrounds share their meals. I personally brought samosas, both peas samosas and samosas, beef samosas, as well as chapatis, which is a dish we share from Uganda, where I'm originally from.
Under my position as Director of Diversity Outreach and Recruitment, we're recommitting to the community, making sure we're out and about, meeting with families, with prospective students, but also making sure that we have a footprint in the community and that everyone in Lowell and the greater Lowell area knows that we're committed to their needs, their interests, and that we welcome them to come to Middlesex. We're at least 20% Latino community, Hispanic, Latino serving. Our Asian community is probably next in line with about 11 to 14% of our Asian students, a lot of them being Cambodian, Vietnamese, catering to the community here in Lowell. Then after that is our African American and African population. I would say we're at 8 to 12% in that area, and then it goes beyond that with our Native Americans, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. The community itself is extremely diverse, which I really like and I appreciate. But I think we have to do a lot more when it comes to engaging one another. So we at the International Institute of New England thought this was a great opportunity because as an organization that resettles refugees, that works with immigrants and asylees here in Lowell, we felt like this is a great opportunity to get our clients, be part of the community, but also get the community the opportunity to interact with some of the people we resettle in this community.
Now there's people in this city from everywhere you can be, working together like we're all family. I got the blowing blues.
Some of the other Welcoming Week programs were recorded and can be seen on LTC. Opened in 1877 as the Boston and Maine Railroad Depot, this building on Central Street has been given new life as the Richard and Nancy Donahue Family Academic Arts Center, now owned and operated by Middlesex Community College. Inside, there's a gorgeous 187-seat theater, a recital hall, and a dance studio.
Welcome to our brand new theater inside of the new Academic Arts Center for Middlesex Community College. This is a palace. This is the new Palace of Lowell.
I love that this building was built as a teaching space, that this is a space that is not just for performances, but is really a place where we can engage students in the teaching and learning process.
We have a phenomenal control booth where we have state-of-the-art equipment. It will allow students to actually have hands-on training with some pretty advanced equipment, sound and lighting, and for a community college it really is this incredible space due to the amazing support and that we've gotten from our administration that really does support the arts. I specifically had wanted to make this space flexible enough so that we could have all kinds of different types of productions happening and not just be limited to one type of seating.
The public is invited to the inaugural performance in December with a staging of William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet,
which we've been wanting to do for a very long time because we haven't really had the ceiling height to be able to have sword fighting. So we're really excited to be able to do that and have a balcony.
Above the theater is a beautifully designed recital hall.
The Academic Arts Center is primarily a teaching place. So in this lovely recital hall, we are offering music appreciation, music theory, world music, American music, various survey classes. And then we have another classroom where we teach guitar and music technology. Most of our students are not music majors. They major in other things and take music classes as an elective. So as a liberal arts elective, it can be a general humanities, performing arts elective. So we have criminal justice majors who want to take music appreciation, and they will come to this lovely room and take their class. The students love it.
The actual studios and performance spaces are all in the shape, inside the structure, which is in the shape of an egg. You can really experience that as you walk around the lobbies on the various different floors, which is a really neat metaphor for the birth of something really fabulous and new coming into Lowell. And I love the idea of this hatching of this egg and this new exciting space that's popping up in Lowell that'll give birth to all of these really incredible performances and incredible opportunities.
Carmen Pulata was playing a piece by the 19th century composer George Chadwick, who was born in Lowell and would later become the director of the New England Conservatory. The first performance in the recital hall, celebrating Lowell through music, including a few selections by Chadwick, will be held on October 12th. It's free and open to the public. On September 15th, the Gujarati Association of New England put on their second annual Indian Heritage Festival at Lowell Heritage State Park. There are performances of various Indian dance forms, Bollywood music, authentic Indian food, and much more. It was a familiar taste of home for the area's South Asian community.
year over here, and I think this is a wonderful setup wherein I think every possible culture within India is been demonstrated over here. I live in India, I have been out of India for almost 17 years. So this is a good place for me to come over here, look at all the things that I miss, especially the Indian fast food.
So far good, we are enjoying. It's a big crowd. We did last year, so it looks better than last year. A lot of people from community comes around, they know us, and we are doing here as a non-profit organization. Everybody meets everybody, which is good. This is all the vegetarian traditional food. It's come from the North Gujarat, basically Ahmedabad and Mehsana area. So it's all Gujarati vegetarian food.
And we've been doing different things because we have so many young people who are so excited. They want to bring, the fresh blood brings in fresh ideas. So that has been a plus point for Gurjar. And we're happy to be here. Lowell is such a diverse community. I think it's one of the warmest cities that in Massachusetts that we are so welcome. Every time we have an event here, like we're overwhelmed by the response of the city officials.
Like this brings people all across, along with India, even giving our culture to other people, letting them see what India is about, in itself brings actually the entire Gujar joy to see that everybody enjoys this event.
This gives us an opportunity for all the people to get together and show what India is, a full of color, a vibrant country with lots and lots of welcoming faiths to it. So.
Cultural festivals are a wonderful way to celebrate and keep alive traditions brought by immigrants to the Merrimack Valley. In this week's Sunspot, Lowell Sun Enterprise editor Chris Scott sits down with a Democratic candidate for U.S. Congress from the 3rd District of Massachusetts, Lori Trahan.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Scott, the Sun Enterprise editor. Thanks for tuning into this latest edition of Sunspot. With me is someone who you've probably gotten to know over the course of the last several weeks because she's been in the newspaper, she's been on television, she's been knocking on your door probably. With us today is Lori Trahan. Lori, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
The Democratic nominee for the 3rd Congressional District following a tough 6-month campaign against 9 other candidates. I think it started out 13 candidates, right?
Yes. Yep, 13, then it went to 10 on the ballot.
So tell me, how are you feeling today?
I feel good.
Yeah.
I really do. It was a long primary campaign. It was competitive, and yesterday we stood in unity, which is always a great feeling when you have all of your colleagues standing there behind you. So I feel great. I feel ready for the next 7 weeks.
What did you learn over the course of the last 6 months during the Democratic primary for the 3rd Congressional District, and how will you apply what you learned going forward in your campaign against Pepperell businessman Republican Rick Green?
Yeah, no matter where I was in the district, I think people are dismayed at the gridlock in Washington. They really do want sensible Democrats and sensible Republicans working together, because the state of affairs right now with nothing getting done, it disproportionately harms working and middle-class families like the one I grew up in, and they want people who are committed to going down and breaking through that.
Now, having spoken to you numerous times during the campaign, You talked about your working class and humble beginnings.
Yeah.
Your father was an iron worker. You were born here in Lowell. You live in the Tony suburb of Westford now, but you are a Lowellian at heart. So is your message going to change at all going forward? Because you mentioned when we were off air just a little while ago about how you want to be laser focused looking toward November.
Right.
So tell us about how that laser focus will work, and will your message still be the same?
Yeah, I mean, look, there are important issues confronting not just the people of this district, but also the country. We've got this roaring economy, we've got a record low unemployment rate, and the reality is that not everyone's feeling it. We need to create jobs. We need to invest in education, affordable college education. I often talked about practical paths of education, vocational training, and community colleges that gets our workforce skilled up and into jobs that we actually attract and retain in this district and across the country. And healthcare, no matter where you go in this district, the rising cost of health care, the rising cost of prescription drugs is something that our families can't keep up with, our seniors. We can't keep up with those costs. And so we have to we have to confront that economic anxiety. And that is the message that we are campaigning on, and we are bringing down, to Washington in November.
Is that your number one issue, that economic anxiety? Is that something?
Yeah, we have to be honest about the income inequality gap in this country. And when you say, what did I learn? It's very real. No matter where you go, there's 7 working class cities in this district. I talk to so many families like the one I grew up in. I talk to seniors like my mom and dad. And that is we have to come up with innovative prescriptions. We can't afford to be in a stalemate on those important issues. Those are places where Democrats and Republicans need to work together and solve problems.
Unfortunately, Democrats and Republicans do not work together, and I think that comes right from the top, from the White House and other places. Do you expect that Donald Trump will be, or the president will be, an issue in this election?
Yeah, I think that there's whether we're talking about jobs, education, or health care, or we're talking about the environment or our foreign policy, people want change. This has been a divisive administration. We do, if we're going to work together, we need to, loosen up the reins on Democrat and Republican partisan politics, and we need to find, common ground. And so I think what gives me a lot of optimism is that this is a change election. There are so many people who never thought about running before, I'm included. When you have this new breed of candidates all going down to Washington at the same time, I do think that you've got an opportunity to change business as usual.
You're running against a Republican now,
yes,
as opposed to 9 or 10 or 11, 12 other Democrats.
Yeah.
During the primary election, you were one of the candidates that really didn't criticize the president as much as some of the others. And the fellow that you were against in the recount, Dan Coe, boy, every opportunity he had, he blasted the president. Do you see yourself picking up that mantle at all now that you're in the race against a Republican?
Look, there's definitely, plenty of contrast between, the positions I have on issues, and I'm sure the positions that, Rick Green has on issues. What I find is I have the diagnosis. We want to talk about prescriptions, right? I mean, there are things that I heard over and over again about, the inhumane treatment of immigrants with this administration, our foreign policy that feels too protectionist or not embracing diplomacy enough, the fact that we've walked away from science with our environmental policy, and I think that going through the primary election, we agreed on the diagnosis. We agreed that it was bad. But now I think you really want to move to a place where, what are we going to do about it? I mean, how are we going to get there? And I'm excited about the fact that there are so many new Democrats going to Washington because, look, we need to transition our party to the future. I'm a lifelong Democrat. I care deeply about our party. I know we need an optimistic path forward. We need to design that so that we're ready for 2020.
We were talking earlier before we came on camera about the Ayanna Pressley race against Mike Capuano and how that was a grassroots movement that really relied on a lot of the progressive vote to throw out an incumbent who we both agreed probably did everything he was supposed to do as a Democrat, but the electorate seems right now very fickle and unpredictable. So what will you do to attract all facets of the Democratic wing, the progressive plus the more moderate Democrat as well?
I think what makes the Democratic Party strong is the fact that we've always been a big tent party, right? We benefit from the diversity of opinions, and I know I benefited. I got better as a candidate, having heard the stories and the intensity of those stories from the people I had the pleasure and privilege of running alongside. And so I think you have to listen. You have to listen to all factions of the party, and then you have to use that to come up with very thoughtful solutions. And we're not always going to get that that full package, that home run. Sometimes we're only going to get a single, but we do need to be focused on where we can make progress and where we can go forward.
How surprised were you that the Boston City Council of Pressley was able to beat an entrenched incumbent like that, and how do you think that bodes for your race as a woman?
Look, I think women are coming out in droves this year across the country. The number of Democratic nominees who are women has doubled since the last midterm, and I think that is because of this administration. So I wasn't surprised. I even saw in this race so many of the people who were knocking on doors. They were young women, they were older women. No woman right now is sitting on the sidelines. They are.
So you're buoyed by your gender.
Well, I think it is. Look, I've got 2 young daughters.
Yeah.
I don't care if we're talking about the leadership gap in this country or, safety and respect in the workplace. Women having their own economic or right of economic independence with affordable daycare and paid leave. I mean, all these issues matter so much to women, and they're having their voices heard right now, which is incredibly important.
When we do these shows, I like to ask guests questions that are kind of timeless because we have like a 2-week lag between shows. Yeah. But there's such a raging issue in Washington, D.C. right now that and you being a woman, I want to ask you about. What do you think of the whole Brett Kavanaugh issue and what allegedly happened when he was in high school? Should the alleged victim there go before the Senate Judiciary Committee, or do you think there ought to be a full FBI investigation? Now, this might be all. I apologize to the viewers. This may all be resolved by the time you watch it. But what's your general view of the Kavanaugh thing? Is that enough to derail him as a Supreme Court nominee?
Yeah, we have to be on a quest for truth. These are important hearings, and we need to take a path that gets to the truth of what happened, and we should be learning from those. We all lived through the 1991 hearings of Anita Hill, and this cannot boil down to a he said, she said. We need to know the truth.
So then you were saying a path. So what is that path? Is it Brett Kavanaugh and the professor, I just can't recall her name right now, appearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee, or is it a full-fledged?
No, I'd like to see it go further than that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get back just to this campaign. What type of campaign are you anticipating against Rick Green? Do you see a slugfest or just kind of a low-key kind campaign? What are you expecting going forward?
I expect it to be a very, thorough conversation around the issues, and I think that there will be. Unlike the primary campaign, where it was often reported that there was little to no difference between the candidates, I don't
Chris
think
Kaczynski, I think, had to report that after every debate. Well, they all got up there again and talked, and they all agreed.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be more spirited.
All right, so what is the biggest difference that you can carve out right now between you and your Republican opponent? We only have about a minute left.
Look, so from what I know about, Rick Green, he is in support of the president's tax policy and giving that tax cut to the wealthy, and he is very much in favor of more corporate contributions flowing into our into campaigns, which is an issue that is really important to me. I mean, I made that an issue in this primary campaign, and
you're referring to the recent state Supreme Judicial Court ruling.
You
in
bet.
That regard.
I mean, look, I am so passionate about campaign finance reform because I was a part of that movement in my 20s with the Campaign Reform Act of 2002, and I want to end Citizens United. We are coming at this problem from opposite ends of the spectrum.
So you're going to keep knocking on doors and
yes.
Just your strategy over the next few weeks?
Yes, all across the district. Our field team has expanded dramatically since.
How many people are working for the campaign now?
Oh gosh, those numbers keep growing. But I'd say we've got 15 to 20 people. We've been able to attract a lot of folks from the other campaigns, which has been great. Plus, there's the coordinated campaign that we get to work with.
Now, you won Lowell big in the primary by, I think, almost 2,000 votes, right? Do you feel you need to do more work in the suburban communities and in the western and eastern edges of the district?
Absolutely, and we are doing that. Right after the election, I was out in Fitchburg and Marlboro and Haverhill, and we are working with the Democratic town committees there. And the great thing about the Democratic Party is that there's been unity events already.
Great.
So we are, we'll be out at train stations again, knocking on doors and doing it in all 37.
Well, Lori, unfortunately, we're getting the hook from our producer, Caroline Gallagher. But I appreciate you coming in today, and good luck going forward, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks for tuning in to the latest edition of Sunspot. We'll be back in 2 more weeks with another enlightening guest. Thank you.
That's it for this edition of LTC News. You can find us on LTC channels 899, online at ltc.org, on Roku at LTC Lowell, or get the link on Facebook. I'm Alanna Flood. Thanks for joining us.